I'm coming on here to tell my story because if this can happen to me, it can happen to you. My name is Theodora Antar. I'm a 33-year-old mother of two girls, Angelina and Juliana. I've been licensed with the state of Connecticut as a notary public and loan signing agent since 2019. I've been a business owner since 2020, and I have a bachelor's in political science from Southern Connecticut State University. I'm also pursuing my law degree, and I'm a JD candidate at the University of Connecticut School of Law and have completed 2 years so far of my JD. I own my own home in Orange, Connecticut. As a child, I was subjected to severe psychological, sexual, emotional, and physical abuse at the hands of my family. I was then further victimized by the state of Connecticut by their negligence and reckless methods of handling my case. In 2006, I went to the Connecticut State Police to report that my older half-brother, who was 9 years older than me, had sexually abused me from the ages of 4 to 9 as a child. In 2007, he was arrested, and in 2009, he pled guilty and was sentenced. Eventually, I graduated high school in 2009 and started college at the University of New Haven in August of 2009 as a double major in legal studies and criminal justice with a pre-law minor. I was actively pursuing my lifelong dream of becoming a successful attorney. After my first year at the University of New Haven, I transferred to Gateway Community College in New Haven, Connecticut, after being unable to get enough in student loans to cover the cost of tuition and housing at UNH. After taking several semesters of community college courses between Gateway Community College and Daytona State College in Daytona Beach, Florida, I decided to take a semester off to work and financially support myself. I worked as a waitress and a nanny, averaging between 60 to 80 hours a week, and was able to support myself financially. I ended up working all throughout college as a nanny and waitress and was a full-time student and a full-time employee for the majority of the time I was in college. I still was able to achieve being listed on the dean's list for virtually every semester in college. I excelled in school and always felt that I was not being challenged enough. By the time I was a senior in college, I had transferred to Southern Connecticut State University in New Haven, Connecticut, where I majored in political science. During my senior year of college, I unexpectedly became pregnant at the age of 22 with a man who I had only known for 6 months. He asked me to get an abortion and told me that we wouldn't even have to tell anyone and that we could just quietly get rid of it. As a Greek Orthodox Christian, I believed that having my child was the only solution at the time, in spite of how hard it would be. I was scheduled to graduate with my bachelor's degree that year in December, but my due date was in October. I knew that if I dropped out of school, I would never go back. Even though I had no support from my family, no stability, no money, and was a struggling college student who wanted to do another 4+ years of school immediately upon the completion of my bachelor's, I decided to rearrange my entire life to embrace motherhood. I signed up for a full load of courses that summer and did an independent study to cover all of the credits that I needed so that I could graduate in August instead of December. In August of 2014, I graduated from Southern Connecticut State University at 9 months pregnant with my BA in political science with a 3.78 cumulative GPA and a 4.0 GPA in my final semester, which I did while heavily pregnant and dealing with an emotionally and physically abusive partner at the time. Juliana was born 1 month later in September of 2014, and I became 100% a stay-at-home mother, dedicating my life to taking care of her full-time. By the time that Juliana was 3 months old, her father's dad threw her and I out on the street in the middle of December because he was angry that her father and I had an argument while at his house where we all lived. I went from living at his dad's house to being thrown out with an infant to going to different apartments until finally in 2016, I decided to finally leave Juliana's father. He was physically abusive to me before, during, and after my pregnancy with Juliana, but I only stayed with him because I needed him financially to support me in order to survive. I had no money or means to survive on my own with a baby. After an incident where he strangled and threatened to unalive me in front of Juliana, who was around 16 months old at the time, I finally called the police and he was arrested and a restraining order was issued. I was granted sole custody of Juliana since 2016 and was awarded sole legal and sole physical custody of her in New Haven Superior Court in New Haven, Connecticut, which I maintained sole custody from 2016 until 2024. I also held sole religious decision-making for Juliana, and she only saw her father, Gerald Viglione, for every weekend from Fridays at 6 until Sunday at 6 every weekend. Gerald's visits were modified to every other weekend in 2022 after he took me to court and asked for less time with Juliana. Juliana's father, Gerald Viglione, was arrested in 2016 and charged with strangulation, assault, and several other charges. He was convicted of assault and later convicted of felony violation of protective order. You can see here proof of what I'm saying. This is the docket number. This is the record of the charges that I'm referencing. Gerald has a criminal history and has substantiations of neglect by DCF against Juliana for him strangling and threatening to unalive me in front of Juliana, which is what led to his arrest, a restraining order, and protective order, which he later violated and is now a convicted felon because of that. He also has a history of DUI and substance and alcohol abuse. He had a prior conviction for a DUI as well. You can see here that he was found guilty. He was issued a fine. Here's the docket number on that one. Illegal operation of motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol and drugs. You can see here that he was convicted of assault third, and he was also convicted of felony violation of protective order, making him a convicted felon. He also currently has pending charges for another DUI and multiple larceny charges that are currently pending in the New Haven Superior Court. As you can see, he was charged with failure to have seatbelts in his motor vehicle, in the same motor vehicle which he has my daughter in. This is another one of his open cases where he currently has 4 counts of larceny in the 6th degree, and he is currently still going to court for this, for him stealing from Yale University. He also received another illegal operation of motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol and drug charge, as well as failure to drive in the proper lane on March 7th, 2024, the same day that he was given custody of Juliana. He was charged with a DUI the same day that he received sole custody. He also had charges for driving with a phone in his hand. As you can see, he was pleading not guilty to operation of motor vehicle with a handheld telephone or electronic device. On December 8th, 2016, Gerald and I had a hearing in the New Haven Superior Court. I was granted sole custody of Juliana, and we came back to court again multiple times, including on March 1st, 2017, where we had another hearing. We went back to court multiple times for Gerald not complying with court orders, not paying court-ordered child support, and not paying court-ordered child care payments. When Gerald found out that I was pregnant with Angelina, he became jealous and really angry, and he said that he was no longer going to be picking up Juliana because Angelina's father, Matt, attempted to drop her off to him for one of the visits. On May 10th, 2019, Gerald and I went back to court because we were trying to make adjustments to our schedule, and we adjusted our parenting plan at that time. On June 28th, 2019, everything was again finalized, and we had a 4-page agreement which made it so I continued to have sole custody of Juliana, and he was given certain holiday access, and he continued to have her every weekend. Angelina was born in May of 2019, and her father Matthew and I were never in a formal relationship. On November 5th, 2019, Matthew and I had our first court appearance in the New Haven Magistrate Court regarding child support. On November 7th, 2019, 2 days later, we were scheduled to come back to court for a hearing for custody and visitation in family court. On November 7th, 2019, after a mutual agreement, our case went to final judgment by agreement of the parties without a trial. The final order gave me primary residency, the right to get a passport for Angelina, and joint legal custody with Matt. It said his visitation would be worked out on a week-by-week basis for seeing Angelina. This is what our final custody agreement looks like. As you can see, it's dated 11/7/2019. As you can see, the judge wrote the parties agreed to share joint legal custody of the minor child, primary residency with mother. Follow me for part 2 as I go into what happened from this point forward.